Okay, we are live. Greetings, all. I want to get this on record, so I'm making this video today. As the title suggests, um, let me explain the whole story to you of what's going on here in my situation. So, to begin, it began when I founded Zero Point Technologies in 2015. Shortly thereafter, I noticed changes in our ISP service, not only through CenturyLink, but also through Comcast. Now, we purchased a company server, and my attempts to connect this server and to get our SSH established, to get our CTO able to access this server, went unsuccessful for months. We spent months diagnosing why this was not working, why our SSH could not connect. After months of diagnosis and studying what could be wrong here, the only thing we could surmise is that Comcast, which was the ISP I was using to connect at that time, was not being completely forthcoming about what was going on with our ISP. So I contacted Comcast, and it took months of phone calls, months of correspondence with Comcast for them to finally send out a tech to try and diagnose what was going on. It took about a year or more before we finally figured out the issue was a dynamic IP as opposed to a static IP. And I told Comcast, I have recorded phone calls, reference numbers, names of people from your establishment, your company, who told me on numerous occasions that our IP is static, not dynamic. The difference between static and dynamic IP is a static IP will not change, whereas a dynamic IP or internet port is constantly changing. And for months, Comcast was telling me that we had a static IP and that it was not the issue with our server. Then one day, all of a sudden, the tech comes out and says, oh, yes, this is dynamic IP. And I told him, you guys have been lying to me. We have spent months trying to diagnose this problem. And now you're telling me it's a static IP? Or excuse me, now you're telling me it's a dynamic IP, not a static IP? In that time, we must have had 5 or 6 different modems installed in our apartment at that location. So recently, I am discovering that it appears CenturyLink is doing the exact same thing to me. I've recently been giving my father tutorials on how to access his online information via the new computer we bought for him. So we registered the device with his banking provider, so we would not have to receive the text or phone alerts for a code from that establishment, which claims that he's logging in from a different location, a different device every time. This has been going on all week. And every time we get a call or text, it charges his phone. So today I call that banking establishment to find out, okay, why is this happening? We've registered the device. We need to find out why it's not yet recognizing it. Of course, they told me that there's nothing they can do for us until Christmas Eve, in which they are open between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. So we have to continue this process until then. Now, I have a hunch that when I call them and when I find out why this is happening, they're going to tell me, oh, you're on a dynamic IP. So our system does not recognize the device. When on numerous occasions, and I have names and reference numbers to confirm this through CenturyLink, they have told me we are on a static IP. It was this time last year, I believe, I called CenturyLink and I was displeased with their service. And they claimed that they could give us a higher speed internet at a lower cost. So they send the tech out here. He gets everything ready. And then he finds out that, oh, no, because the phone wires beneath this place are so old, they cannot give us a higher speed internet, even though they told me they could. So I said, you've contradicted yourselves once again here. Now, what service are you going to offer us to compensate for this? I think they gave us a free month of cable. And naturally, my father said to take it because I don't think he is completely aware of what is going on or even, really cares about what's going on with my company and the unwarranted surveillance that continues. And I do know that a static IP and a dynamic IP are both accessible to, conduct this type of surveillance. So what I had to do is I had our CTO begin running logs and diagnostics 24 hours of both this location and our other location at the server. And he continues to turn up questionable entries, questionable pings. Um, he seems to think that there is some type of unwarranted surveillance going on. And I know this is the case. But until I have enough evidence, how can I seek prosecution with a Justice Department that is itself a federal entity, working with the same federal entity that has stymied our company progress and dealt me blow after blow from this invisible source? So ultimately, I just want to make this video to get my story on record, so it serves as further evidence as to what is actually going on here. I have been not only lied to, which I can prove on several occasions from our ISPs, Comcast and CenturyLink, but in the future, I hope to have enough evidence to seek prosecution and prove that, yes, we are being illegally spied upon. And I had no issues with Comcast or CenturyLink until I founded 0 Point Technologies, LLC. At that point, that is when it all started to begin. And it doesn't take a genius to figure out why. I say this all the time, because the federal entity is very concerned about the technology we are building and we are going to bring to the mainstream, because it threatens their oligarchy, their system of bleeding people dry via taxes, via fossil fuels, via this corporate bullshit. We know that Facebook recently sold out data to other corporations. I honestly wouldn't be a bit surprised if CenturyLink and Comcast have been selling my data to whatever corporation for, whatever reason, whatever earmark they're giving them to get an inside window into what we are working on. But I can state that they're dealing with someone who's smarter than the average bear. They're dealing with someone who is aware of their own rights. And they're also dealing with someone who is aware of the corruption of the Justice Department. But when I present all of my evidence, which is overwhelming, their hand will be forced, much like it was in the Monsanto verdict. It's called, as I said yesterday in my video, taking one for the team. The evidence is so compelling that were they to even attempt to rule against me, it would be illogical. It would be revealing their secret corporate interest in working with corporations and working with this federal entity. And I mean, I can tell you folks the amount of time I spent on the telephone with ISPs, the amount of time I've spent with the techs out here as they install modem after modem after modem, and apparently are dodging the real issue. The tech I had last time who actually came clean about it, I think the only reason he came clean was because he saw that this guy is legit. This guy is doing his own research. He is smarter than the average bear. And my mother and my father, they are still learning about the computer itself. When I say ISP to them, it's like a foreign language to them. They would have no idea how to, create some type of trap in which an illegal spy would fall into and then provide that evidence. They have no clue about this. So naturally, they are the perfect, unwilling, and unsuspecting customers. And I'm thankful that I was able to return here and assist them as more and more of these things come to the light. So again, just to surmise, I want this video to be on record as evidence that not only Comcast, but also CenturyLink are conducting and working with federal entities that are conducting illegal surveillance on my company. And I know it's my company because there were no issues with either of them until I founded the company, until we began working on this technology, until the federal government began to see that, okay, yeah, this guy is legit. He is founding a company in this nation to build free over unity technologies, such as magnetic, such as plasma, such as frequency, the exact same technologies which the military has been using and suppressing for decades. And many would claim that this is paranoia, but many also don't have the evidence that I have. The hours of phone calls that are logged and recorded, the names and reference numbers of people I've spoken with, the evidence of constant changing of our modems. And I promise you, whatever corporations are conspiring against mine, you will be held responsible. You will be held liable for whatever illegal surveillance you've been conducting upon my corporation. And I warn you that you're dealing with somebody who is intelligent, who has integrity, and who is aware of their own rights. And even in a corrupt Justice Department, the evidence I've compiled will be overwhelming against you. So you should greatly consider who you're dealing with here. So again, just to surmise, this record is to get on record and on video the fact that I have building evidence proving corporations, ISPs, are conducting illegal, unwarranted surveillance on my company. And it was not until I founded my company that this surveillance began. I have an academic CTO out of Stanford University who is running 24-hour logs of both of my ISP locations, who is turning up instance after instance of questionable pinging, questionable packets, questionable snooping. And I pride myself on my security. I change my passwords constantly. I am always taking every step I can to ensure security for this company and for my personal matters. But when you have a corporate entity that established the internet, established it to not only serve people's needs for browsing, but also, of course, a backdoor for surveillance, what can be done other than for the vigilant citizen to begin conducting their own research, gathering the facts and the information? And what I have currently all points to the same fact, that Comcast and CenturyLink both are working with a federal entity to spy on my company and what we're building. So, that said, I've said all I need to say today. I have this on record now. And ATTN, Comcast and CenturyLink, if you are conducting this illegal surveillance, you need to stop, because you will be held liable in a courtroom. And while you may feel confident, I'm certain, about your ability in that courtroom and how that federal entity will shield you, I warn you that with enough evidence, any verdict can be overturned. Monsanto has proven this recently, as they ruled in favor of that poor gentleman who's suffering and has suffered. You will take one for the team, and you are not dealing with your average human being. So that's all I have to say for today. Thank you for tuning in and watching, and be smart and be safe, everyone. If they're doing this to me, they're doing it to all of you as well. It just matters on, how big of a threat you are to the establishment. What are you working on that conflicts with corporate greed or federal interest? Because before I founded 0 Point Technologies, I had no issues with the surveillance. But it took no more than 1 month after our company was formulated, established as an LLC, that we began encountering ordeal after ordeal after ordeal, not only through the internet, not only through our personal lives, not only through our professional lives, financial lives, investing. Every arm of the cabal is trying to conspire against me and my company. And this was even proven through my correspondence with the Freemasons, who told me that, yes, the reason they are installing these modems and lying to you is because they are conducting surveillance upon you. So I didn't believe it at first. I didn't want to believe it. But once my CTO began giving me the information, showing me the logs, that yes, this is happening, it doesn't take a genius to connect these dots now, does it? So that's all I have to say for today. I wish you all well. I wish you all happy holiday. I have this on record now, and I honestly hope that they will consider what I have said here, and they will realize they're not dealing with your average civilian man. I am aware of much more than any civilian is. So until next time, be well, everybody, and be smart.